So luckily, this nice little metaphor sprouted up in the group of when we soak dishes in the dishwater. I feel like in terms of access and what it feels like to abide in awareness, that's a good metaphor or analogy. So you can't really soak your dishes if there's no water in the sink. That's why the very first aspect of Dzogchen is to recognize the nature of mind and then familiarize with that. We always hear about a month. We hear that timeline, which is pretty amazing that you can narrow it down like that. But so for about a month, we're familiarizing with what we recognize. And familiarizing entails more just getting used to it, just like riding a bike or driving down a new road that you've never been down. Once you drive down that road 10 times, now it's becoming familiar to you, right? So in this case, actually, clouds are starting to get out of your way more and more. But the fact is, I'm pretty sure those like Ramana Maharshi even have talked about how karma still needs to exhaust itself. Some wait their entire lives and imagine their body to be part of that exhaustion of karma. So the the karma, the conditioning built from ignorance, fabrications, that's like the stuff we have on our dirty plate. And when we recognize awareness, then you can soak this dirty plate, the samsaric plate of the conditioned self. Yeah, it's really like that. The plate is the conditioned self, and all the stuff that's on the plate is all our habits and things like that. So then you soak in awareness, but it takes time for these things to come off. So it's not always going to be immediate. Paradoxically, though, you can say we practice immediate enlightenment because the idea is that it's here all the time, and we start to notice the obscurations that we tend to put in the way. So it may take a little bit of time for karmic momentum to exhaust itself. But if you come into this open awareness, and now we're on this fourth samaya of openness, we're finishing um, the four great samayas now with this reading. And uh, if we can begin to let go of thought contrivances and proliferations, ruminations and imaginations, all the nations, right? The United Nations of samsara. Well, if we can manage to release those into ineffability, into the I don't know mind, so to speak, then there's natural openness. There's pure presence here because we're not fixated, we're not blinding ourselves away. And there's oneness in a sense of no psychic boundaries, no emotional walls that we're setting up, things like that. So we're like a fully working antenna in a way. We're very receptive to everything around us, but instead of a transmission and a reception, this is more of a just a connection. And so we start to abide in the connection, free from obscurations. And through that is natural revelation, natural wisdom, what they call yeshi. And so this nature that you recognize, we use awareness because it permeates everything that's happening, all these patterns, all this karmic momentum. And that is your Buddha nature, the Buddha mind. It just may have some clouds over it. Tathagata Garpa, right? Tathagata is the Buddha, enlightened. And then Garba is like a womb. So sort of actually saying empty cognizance also in that Sanskrit term. In Tibetan, they use the Sanskrit terminology, but it's called Deshig Nimpo. So in that sense, we have this idea of emptiness as a womb, as the space from which cognizance can breathe, in which it breathes. So you have this cognizance, the nature permeating the essence with a ceaseless display, its own radiance as our reality. Mm. And then they have this beautiful Tathagata Garbha Sutra that's considered a Mahayana Sutra, but actually, it has these wonderful similes and everything. It could fit very well into Dzogchen. And by the way, they say that was the academics say that was invented in like 4th, 5th century, but to me, that's impossible. How could they just invent Buddha nature? um, but that's a great sutra to read, and that's what we're dealing with here in the way of abiding. Okay, the four samayas and the nature of our mind, or our mind itself, the nature and the essence, which is vast, spacious, unrestricted cognizance, unrestricted consciousness, pure since beginningless time. The only confines are the ones that we apply. And maybe somebody else applied some confines. I don't know. We're going to break them all either way, okay? So let's continue to explore here. Since one comes to this decisive experience within the expanse of enlightened intent that surpasses ordinary mind, there is no substance with characteristics that can be defined as some thing. There's nothing to be known through language or expressed in words. Within the vast expanse, unnameable and free of elaboration, one comes to a decisive experience of the phenomenon of the world of appearances and possibilities, whether of samsara or nirvana. Within the vast expanse, the unborn simultaneity of awareness and emptiness, one comes to a decisive experience concerning the phenomenon of one's own self-knowing awareness. For anybody who's making the argument out there that we mingle into some great soup of mind where we don't have our own mind anymore, but we melt into a great oneness, to me that would be a type of nihilism, actually, because uh, or nihilism, right? How you pronounce that? Because there you're saying that our mind's going to stop existing, that we're going away, we're going to melt into a black hole with all the other minds. There's a black hole of all the minds getting sucked into it, right? So right here it says one's own self-knowing awareness. It's very difficult for Dharma practitioners to understand how you can have your own mind and have it be unconditioned, unfabricated. Because as soon as you say you still have your own mind if you're a Buddha, They say, "Oh no, you're being eternalist. You're asserting a higher self." And so we have this trend in the Dharma where people are implicitly nihilistic. They lean into nihilism, and they don't even know they're leaning into it. I guess they'd be kneeling into it. Oh, where's that applause sign? Yeah, right. Kneeling into kneeling into nihilism. Oh, that was a laugh. Okay. Hey, that one's in the top 10 right there. Just sprouted up. Somebody's trying to speak or no? Remember, we're live. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's no problem. So what I'm understanding from the text is that we can't really, or I should say, words can't explain the phenomena that we experience. Only simply feeling it can explain.
Not even necessarily feeling it because that's another sort of thinking mind. So it's maybe to access that, you can think of when you jump into the ocean, there's no words that could ever repeat that experience or really sum it up, right? Summarize that experience. You have a lot going on that's beyond expression.
Hmm.
Making sense? And we have a lot of stuff like that. In fact, when we leave compassion, when we just swim in the pure presence of our open heart, there's a lot there that just cannot be uh, summarized.
Yeah, but you said I understand words not explaining it, like jumping in the ocean. But you also said feeling it wouldn't really explain it either. But if we were to jump in the ocean, would the only thing that we can like comprehend that we jumped in the ocean was the actual like feeling of it?
No, it's not because there's a no, which part of your mind knows that you're feeling something?
Uh,
Yeah. So there's a whole nother part of your mind there
uh,
that's having understanding or wisdom.
okay, I get it. I get it
Great.
now. I don't know
Welcome
why
to the fourth dimension.
that tripped on my mind for a second when you asked me that. I tripped it off for a second. Like it
No,
went to
I tripped you out. I
the
did it on purpose.
sky. Thank you.
All right, good question. I I think it's really healthy when we can challenge these things and make sure we get it right, and especially challenge it. I mean, peer review it and compare it to modern understandings and science and all kinds of stuff. The thing about Dzogchen that we have to perhaps consider if we want to respect the sanctity and take it serious in a way. By the way, you became unmuted there.
My bad.
Is that here we're using the same application that science uses. We're able to observe our minds, we're able to talk about it. All this is repeatable. Empty cognizance is something all of us can recognize. Many have done it throughout thousands of years, and it's talked about and published everywhere. So, this is science. It's observable, introspective science. The only thing is, you have to stick together. And these days, not many groups, not many people really stick together in an honest, uncorrupted way. But if we stick together, we can verify, which is what the Kalama Sutta suggests, and many other words of my perfect teacher, and so many other great publications or scriptures. Um, that's what they say, to verify with others so you don't become a proprietary delusional island, you know. where you're just in your own echo chamber. And this way, we can truly validate and be taken serious that we're not just playing around here. And there's so much that we've come across through this group, all of your, that's why your practice is so appreciated. Oh, yes, Faye, you have a question?
Okay. Yeah, my own self-knowing awareness. Maybe I am leaning towards nihilism, but the
Hmm.
way I the way I feel those words, um, my self-knowing awareness is just the awareness of how it is for me right now, and in the next moment it's going to be different. So I still kind of resist thinking of it as my self knowing awareness, because it's not the same me that it was before, and it's not going to be the same me in another second.
Hmm.
Okay, yeah, that's how I feel about it. Say more about that.
Yeah, and I totally respect it. That's how you feel about it, but that's not what Longchenpa is saying, right? Because Longchenpa, even if we go down two lines with no transition or change throughout the three times, you see, I don't even have to say anything. You're saying that it's changing. No, it's not awareness that's changing. It's not the heart of your mind that's changing. It's the things within the mind that are changing.
Yeah, okay, that I do, I go for that.
That makes sense.
I
You
guess
can
it's
accept
just
that.
my own self is the part that I say, well, yeah, my awareness of whatever there is right now.
Mhm.
That's why the other day when we were reading in Spontaneous Presence, I was like, I love this that he says um, he, that this is called abiding, but we, but he also says it's moment or moment by moment, and there was another word like that I was like, yeah, I can abide in this, but I abide in it moment by moment.
Yeah, there's this seeming change in that context. That phrase "moment by moment" really stood out to me because it's never used. I've never seen that across in these texts, only in that one place. And so that makes me think that moment by moment is referring to um, the condition, what the conditioned mind is presenting. Any anytime we apply time, see, moment by moment, that has been negated by Madhyamaka, right? Time itself has been negated. So, and this text also talks about freedom from time. It says right here in the very next sentence. So we have to consider that any implication of time, we're not really talking about awareness there. It's just your conditioned mind is creating the illusion of some moment, like momentary um, instances. But time itself is very difficult when we live as sort of two-dimensional beings, um, and bordering into three dimensions, but not fourth dimension. To see how everything could be without time. This is something that has to be revealed within our own enlightenment. That's one of the biggest things is time is the great initiator. It's one of the great things that keeps us in the game, you know. So I can't say what your experience, anything, nothing wrong with your experience, but there could be a slight uh, interpretation that you're having of these portions of the text where you're applying time to awareness, to the nature of mind. And we have to understand that it's all over the text. It's very, very explicit. You may have had that one sentence where it said moment to moment, but everywhere else it says no transition or change throughout the three times. And it talks about being beyond time everywhere. And in fact, the last one here also says timeless, timelessly and totally empty phenomenon. And that to be free of time has to be revealed to us. That is something that I was so skeptical about, and I couldn't really let it sink in until I started to get proof in my own observable sort of realizations. Yeah, so I don't want to try to correct anything you're saying or suggest that anything's wrong because there's not, and even your understanding seems fine to me. But in case it benefits you, you may be sticking time into the context of the timeless. That making sense?
Okay, thank you, thank you.
All right. Good times. See what I did there? All right. I'm on fire. I could have been a stand-up comedian, but cannot benefit. You saw it, Thomas. It cannot benefit being so much. Maybe. Actually, comedians could probably benefit beings. So let's see if there's another inquiry here. It says, so basically your awareness never changes since it doesn't have a form, but your thoughts are constantly changing. However, your thoughts aren't yourself, so yourself isn't changing. And then it says, whoa. Yeah, awareness doesn't experience moments. That's right. Right, since it has no form. All right, yeah, I think we're getting there. Maybe compare it to space if you're ever really trying to access and understand. Remember, conventionally speaking, just to use as a metaphor, we can say space isn't changing. If I move my hand, space is just there. And so we could say my hand was at point A and then it goes 10 frames and now it's at point B. So that in between is what we call time. It's even called tweening in animation. And so you have this sense of time, but space itself had to hold that. So awareness is like that, it holds all of it. All right. Yeah, great inquiries, great challenges to what's being said, making sure we verify this stuff. Very good. So, within the vast expanse, which has nothing to do with the recognition or non recognition of awareness, one comes to a decisive experience concerning the phenomenon of awakened mind. And how does that have to do with recognizing or not recognizing? Because any sense of the one that recognized is that smaller reference point, that kind of baby self. In the Dharma, they always say the child meeting the mother. Well, eventually the child has to grow up, right? And becomes one with the mother. And so they say, like, water being poured into water, or another analogy I like is when the space inside of a pot, when it breaks, meets the space outside of the pot, right? So these are very nice little metaphors we can use to feel it, feel into it, I would say. And I would say there's no sense of recognition or non recognition because everything is always just recognition. You could always see it like that too. And it's not like there's a reference point of you recognizing anymore. There's just beingness. And that's also something that many people should and can be skeptical about. And that's why you continue to trust just abiding, letting it be, like the four trukshakas, letting all your experience be in the bathwater of empty cognizance, and that open mind. And then you'll start to see how things could be timeless, how there could be a mind, our own mind, without an us. It has to be paradoxical, right? Otherwise, it can't be true. It's not. It's not a paradox. It can't be true. So it says here, within the vast expanse, with no transition or change throughout the three times, one comes to a decisive experience concerning timelessly and totally empty phenomena. Yeah, and they are not playing around about that timeless aspect. It's true. So from the precious treasury of the way of abiding, this is the fourth topic reaching the definitive conclusion concerning the oneness of all phenomena within awareness, timeless awareness as their source.